Tag team, and there'll always be a tag team in my book, so I'm going to put them in this tag team showcase. Is Earthquake and Typhoon, the Natural Disasters. These guys were one of my favorite tag teams. They were just unusual to me because they were just two big, you know, fat guys, but when they got out there they could move around, and they were entertaining and they were fun. And you know, Earthquake recently passed away too, so rest in peace to him. But here's a close-up shot of the Quake. And as I said, these did come separate, although they were a tag team. He had the tiger tattoo on there, as wore off, but it was there. But he had his old blue attire on that they wore when they started off before they got the color-coordinated attires. And then the other one we got here is Typhoon, which everybody else knows as the infamous Shockmaster he would become when he fell through the wall at WCW, which was absolutely hilarious. If you've never seen it, you've got to see it. I'm sure pretty much any fan who follows wrestling has seen that by now, but there they had the Typhoon on the tights, and there's Typhoon for you. So Earthquake and Typhoon, the Natural Disasters. So let's go on to another tag team that came separate, but I'm going to put them in the tag team division. None other than the Big Bossman, and I'm missing his nightstick, and the one-armed Akeem. I actually broke his arm off. I have the arm. I might glue it back on just for looks, but Akeem and Bossman were a heck of a tag team, and they go together, so it makes it look more cool. But they were known as the Twin Towers, one of my favorite tag teams of all time, and I was so devastated when I broke the arm and couldn't use them as a tag team anymore because he had one arm. Which I tried to glue it back on a few times, and that didn't end up really doing the trick. But here's Akeem up close. You know, had his hat on and everything. I thought it was always weird that they put him in their attires that they wore out on their entrances and wouldn't put them in their actual regular attires. But there's big old Akeem, aka the one-man gang. I'm sure everybody knows that he was the one-man gang before Akeem, and then he went back to it. But there's Akeem. And then here is the Big Boss Man, Ray Traylor. Rest in peace to him as well, as he's recently passed away. There's so many of these guys that I loved when I was a kid that are gone now. But, you know, he had it going on all of his, you know, they had it pretty right on to what Bossman wrestled in. You know, shirt even a little bit unbuttoned. The strap. This is when he was a little bit fatter, I think, in the towers. He had another figure that I never ended up getting. I always liked this Bossman actually better, because he was able to throw a better punch. I don't know. So there's the Twin Towers. Now, I didn't separate these out beforehand, so I'm trying to just go through and pick out the tag teams that I know of. I'll put these guys as a tag team, even though they really didn't come as a tag team at all, and they aren't color coordinated, but they are who they are. So I'm going to put them together on the tag team reel too. It's none other than Jim the Anvil Niedhart and his singles run attire, aka his attire that he wore with the new foundation with Owen Hart. And then the other one would be Bret the Hitman Hart. And how can you not put in the Hart Foundation? They were great. One of the best tag teams I think I ever saw. Some people say they aren't. They are right up there in my top tag teams of all time. I loved Anvil was the power, and Bret was more the technical guy. But you could always have Anvil come in and just plow somebody away and just beat down somebody. And then Bret would come in and finish it up with the sharpshooter, and they'd do the old... I can't even remember what the old move that they did was. Well, I just can't remember right off the top of my head, but their finishing maneuver was pretty cool. And there you have it, the Hart Foundation. One of my favorites. There's Jim the Anvil Niedhart in his new Foundation attire, and as I said, you know, he isn't in his Hart Foundation attire, but I still used him as the Hart Foundation because he came around. This came out right after he had split off and went on his own solo. This actually did not come out with Owen Hart. You know, they did come out with an Owen Hart and Coco Beware figures in this attire too that I never did get a hold of. But there's Niedhart, and then an up close of the great Bret Hart. The Hitman, you know, I always loved this figure to death, and I still do. You know, now that I look at it, it's just brings back so many memories. I had so many matches. He was one of my favorite wrestlers when I was a kid, and I'm telling you what, the Hitman was where it was at after Hogan took off from the WWE. He ended up getting screwed in Montreal. We don't know if it was a work or if it was real. I've heard both stories. It's hard to say. But, he ended up going to WCW, minimal success there, won a few titles, championships, but ended up getting injured by Goldberg. He's got a quarter-size hole in his neck now. Had a stroke. Recently fought Vince McMahon, came back 13 years after being out of the WWF. If I'm wrong, correct me. I think it was 13. But the match was okay. I didn't like the whole Hart Lumberjack deal that they had going on, you know. But there's the old Hitman, and it was cool to see him at Mania, you know. Glad he came back. Another tag team that didn't come together, but I'm going to place them together, was none other than Irwin Shyster, IRS, and the $1 Million Man, better known as Money Inc., Money Incorporated. They held the tag titles, even fought Hogan and Bruce Beefcake at WrestleMania when Hogan popped up after Bret Hart versus Yokozuna and won the title that Mania. I think that was Mania 8, if I'm correct. Lost the $1 Million belt. IRS never came with a briefcase or anything. But here's a close-up of old Ted, who was just inducted into the Hall of Fame. It's kind of funny that all this WrestleMania stuff's popping up, and I didn't even plan on that, but I should have. But there's $1 Million Man. You know, he had to wrestle in a suit, you know, and it was kind of weird. But then later on, I'm just going to show you that they came out with a $1 Million Man in his tights, so that was a lot better. So then you have Money, you know, in their attire too. So here's a close-up on the other $1 Million Man that I had. You know, he had the dollar signs on the side of his tights. It's a good $1 Million Man. I liked it. It's pretty much the same head too as the other one. You know, slightly different now that I look at it. Different color hair. He was more blonde on the other one, as you can see. He was more blonde on the other one than he was on the other one. But there's my two Dibiases. I used to have him come down on this one and then he'd wrestle on this. So. But there is IRS, Irwin Shyster, better known as Mike Rotundo. Mike Rotundo was on the U.S. Express with Barry Windham. Mike Rotundo was also known as Michael Wall Street, Mr. Wall Street, VK Wall Street. He's had so many gimmicks. IRS, though, Irwin Shyster, probably one of his most memorable runs. He got close to holding the IC title, I think, a few times, but him and $1 Million Man had their tag title runs. So there's Money Inc. for you.